Hey everyone, John here. And look, I don't like my phone. I feel like I experience less of life because of this thing. It's a device that allows you to be connected at all times to everybody, and because of that, you get less of your own experiences. I feel like I play games less because of my phone, I watch movies less because of my phone, and I allow the opinions of others to become my opinions because I'm not experiencing those things, and I don't like that. And so, I want to put a stop to it. And the perfect excuse to change my ways came with a power cut. My family was out of power for around 2.5 days' time, and I've got 2 kids at home. They've never experienced this before. And so after the first few hours, which were fun, no TV, just playing games, that was lots and lots of fun, things started to get late and dark, and I was thinking, how do I entertain these children? And then out comes the beautifully, fully charged PSP, and a stack of UMD movies, baby.
This video is brought to you by Raycon. I don't know about you, but I always feel a little guilty wearing headphones at home. I can't hear what's going on around me, and I feel like it makes me a bit less connected to my family. I want to hear my games, but I don't want to feel closed off. Well, thanks to Raycon's new bone conduction headphones, I no longer have to choose. Raycon's new bone conduction headphones use off-ear audio, sending sound through vibrations in your bones. They sound crystal clear, and thanks to their no-bud fit that doesn't slip, I can hear my games, podcasts, and music clearly while still being able to talk to and engage with what's going on around me. These headphones are so popular in my house that I had to get a second pair after my wife kept stealing mine. These are the most versatile, convenient headphones I've used, and if you try them, I know you'll love them like I do. And now is the best time to pick them up. Black Friday is around the corner, and Raycon audio products are up to 30% off site-wide. From everyday essentials to the latest releases like the bone conduction headphones, it's the perfect time to upgrade your sound or get ahead on gifting. These early deals won't last long. Shop now before they're gone. Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/GVGBC to get up to 30% off during Raycon's Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale. Thanks again to Raycon for sponsoring this video.
So we're having a power cut. The lights are not working. TV won't work. However, we have a plethora of UMD movies to watch. Hooray, we're saved! We're saved, Freddy! Hooray! Say PSP. Daddy! We watched Stuart Little 2 and Ice Age. And when my 2-year-old woke up at 4 a.m, I watched the Simpsons movie with him. It was so handy to have a console that doesn't need a power outlet or the internet to watch movies without any preparation. I knew keeping a small stack of UMDs was a good idea. There's well over 200 UMDs out there, and each region has their own variants. I remember having a Mr. Bean UMD I owned growing up, and then there's stuff like Little Britain, all exclusive to the UK. Crazy line. But that's only a slither of why PSP is such a good video player. You can just load this thing up with MP4s. They've got to be formatted in the right way, but it's so simple with programs like Handbrake. And the real star of the show is the hold button. This disables any buttons from being registered, and so you can hold the system as comfortably as you want and not be at risk of pressing buttons. And it's the ultimate child disabler. If I hand my son my phone, he's going to exit Netflix, open my emails, and send horrific things to everyone I've worked with, but the PSP has my back. Everything's stored on these memory stick duos. My launch one came with a 32MB card, which I thought was massive compared to PlayStation 2's 8MB memory cards, and it does the job for saving games, but these days you want something like this. A memory stick duo to microSD card adapter, and throw as much space in as you want. Now you might be thinking, why the PSP? There are other handheld consoles that can do multimedia, right? Much newer ones like the PlayStation Vita and the 3DS. Well, 3DS is quite limited in how it can do things, and plus music and photo are different apps and videos just kind of dicey. And then the PlayStation Vita, while it's very good at being a multimedia device, it's also not as flexible. You've got to download a content manager on your PC and then go through on your Vita and select what files you want. It's slower. Whereas with the PlayStation Portable, you just plug this thing in like a memory stick, go to USB mode, and drag and drop your files. Put your MP3s in the music folder, MP4s in the video folder, pictures in the picture folder. And then you've got the XMB. Oh baby, the XMB. To this day, the best console interface ever. Everything is fast and easy. You want videos? There they are. You want the internet? Simple as heck. You can customize it too with different background styles or load your own photos to really customize it to your own. This is as peak as it gets, and PlayStation 3 just copied it because it's so good. The PSP hit Japan in 2004, and you need to understand, the iPhone didn't release until 2007, and even then, it didn't immediately change the mobile landscape. I had one of these, a Sony Ericsson Walkman phone, up until around 2010, with a traditional mobile keypad. Smartphones, relatively, are really new things. It's hard to imagine life without them, but life without them wasn't that long ago. And so, a device with a nice big screen, lots of power, which was needed for games, and is able to lend that power to its media capabilities, was unprecedented. We had portable DVD players and devices that could do what a PSP could, but none were this efficient at all of it. And the web browser. Back then, this was one of the most powerful web browsers you could use. Actual mobile phone browsers were broadly no good. You still needed to load mobile versions of web pages, but I remember using it to browse IGN, using it for Facebook, and so much more. Unfortunately these days, it can't really load much more than Google, as almost every web page uses more RAM than the PSP allocates to its browser. Maybe you can find a few light ones out there still, but this was a viable phone alternative in its day. Not only could you use it for social media, but it had Skype pre-installed for video calls and audio calls and instant messages. But obviously, that's no good anymore either. That's where this whole phone replacement business gets dicey. PSP's fantastic as a portable entertainment hub, but staying connected, not so much. But with the mood I'm in, that's exactly what I want, to be untethered and enjoy things. Back at school, I remember a kid used to load his PSP with anime and watch a new episode of something every break we got, and so to honor him, I caught up with Dan Da Dan, a show I started but didn't finish. And let's just blame my phone for that. I hate you, stupid phone, it's probably your fault. Listen to Jamila Sek.
You have to acknowledge that people are on their phones the whole time they're watching telly. So you have to simplify the plot so that they'll be able to follow along while they're browsing on their phone. So that's why you'll notice now in random, like in TV shows, even with good actors, they're saying really obvious things about what's happening. They're laying out the entire plot line and all of their emotions and motivations. Like the language has become really bait and on the nose. And that's because they're being told, the writers, that they have to write in a way that someone can carry on with doom scrolling or shopping online while following it in the background. So nothing can be too complex, nothing can be too high end. It has to be like we are purposefully dumbing down content.
I ended up watching Spider-Man 2 and 3 on here, The Incredibles. I loaded up some kids shows like Bluey and Number Blocks for my kids, and they loved it too. But back then, what I really used it for was an MP3 player. I loaded my PSP with so much music in its day, and in these few weeks, I've probably listened to more than I have since I was a teenager. It was really nice to just enjoy music like this again, and part of it is the visualizers. I love these things. We have regressed as a society. We need to go back to this. Some PSP games even let you incorporate your own music into the game itself, and that's rad. Check this out. Growing up, I loved Crazy Taxi Bear Wars. I mean, it's a portable version of Crazy Taxi. What's not to love? Well, this version also plagued every other re-release. Let's just do this for a second because it's copyrighted. That's not The Offspring! However, you can make your own soundtrack in the PSP version of Crazy Taxi. And so, if we go to this menu here and go to Custom Music and turn it on, we can now just put the original soundtrack back in the game. So I've loaded The Offspring onto my PSP, and again we'll do this very, very quickly because it is copyrighted. By the way, if you hold this button down, the music one, it mutes and unmutes. I didn't know that my entire life. But here we go, ready?
Alright, let's get it on. Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go. Yeah.
And that's all we're doing because it's copyrighted. But there you go, The Offspring back in Crazy Taxi. Just by dragging and dropping some files on the PSP. All completely in the game, no homebrew. This is a feature. The photo element is probably the weakest these days. Loading really high quality images takes quite a long time, but it's great for the low-res stuff, which was very common in the mid-2000s. The PSP camera was brilliant too. This thing was better than most phone cameras of the era, and while it definitely doesn't hold up, I do really like the swivel motion it has. You can very easily go from front-facing to rear-facing, and most phones couldn't do that. The accessories for this thing are all awesome. We've talked about the GPS before, but it still works to this very day. The map software may be a bit outdated depending on how much your streets have changed since the mid-2000s, but I can still get around really easily in most places. And games used it too, like Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. We actually documented this for the very first time on the internet. No one else has recorded this feature before. It's like Pokemon Go, but you're walking around to find soldiers in the real world. That, and it came out in 2006. Nuts. A commercial of mine is currently airing in chicken shops around London, and I've not heard it in person before, so I took my PSP GPS and the PSP camera, went on an adventure on the streets of London, and found it and recorded it with the camera.
Trim, edge, and shade more effortlessly than ever with One Blade 360.
I also went to the London Science Museum. That was pretty rad, just full of consoles from all era of games. Here's a big Halo 3 LAN that was going on. And I've wanted to do this video for ages now. So here's a picture of my son that I took maybe a year and a half ago, and here he is now, looking a lot better than he used to. And we've also got to talk about the microphone. You can use both this and the camera for Skype, but the main use was Talkman. This horrifically animated bird can translate anything you say into multiple languages, as long as it's on his pre-installed list of phrases that he knows. So, it's hit or miss.
I shall tee off. You shall just watch.
Well, do you see it here?
Yeah. It's pretty much what I said. Come back here while I hit you with my club.
How's this?
That's not what I said, Talkman! You are to blame.
This is about all I can come up with.
Talkman. No, that's not what I said. How are you?
Here's what you
Oh,
want to
look,
say,
there it
including
is.
here.
Perfect. You work, Talkman. How do you say that in German, though, huh?
Wie geht es Ihnen?
Say that one more time, Talkman.
Wie geht es Ihnen?
What's this little shuffle you do? What is this? What is that?
Wie geht es Ihnen?
We get es ihnen.
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 Wie geht es Ihnen?
We get es ihnen. We get es ihnen. We get es ihnen.
So we've got music, we've got photos, we've got movies, both digital and physical. We've got the internet, even though the browser doesn't really work that well anymore. We've got a camera, we've got a GPS, we've got a language converter, and of course we've also got games. Personally, I don't use my phone for games, mostly because it's not really suitable for it. I charge my phone overnight and just sort of use it casually throughout the day, scrolling, doing emails, and that's enough to drain the battery by the end of the day. It's not really fit for purpose as an all-in-one media device when I mostly need it for communication. I don't want to be draining the battery on other forms of media, but games are the biggest strain by far, and PSP absolutely kills it here. Like any handheld, it's a dream for ports of older console games being made portable for the first time. But keep into account, the PSP launched 3 years after Game Boy Advance, and it was capable of games like this. It felt near indistinguishable from what PlayStation 2 was doing, and this was years before the PlayStation 3 was even in sight. Obviously, the gap broadens when you blow it out to a TV, which you could do very easily with the component out of the PSP 2000 or 3000 or even the dock of the PSP Go, but on the small screen, these games look exceptional. We had multi-platform PlayStation 2 games like Tomb Raider Legend or Prince of Persia, and you can even transfer your save file between some of these games like in Crash Tag Team Racing. You know, back in the day, I bought a DSi because of the DSi store. I thought this is the perfect opportunity for Virtual Console, Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. Really, really easy, small file sizes. That didn't happen until the 3DS, whereas PSP was doing fully blown PS1 games from its store all the way back in around 2006. Crazy. Much like PS2, PSP has a native layer of backwards compatibility for the PlayStation 1, so this isn't entirely emulation. As long as the game doesn't need a second stick or L2 and R2, it works perfectly on the PSP. Games like Crash Bandicoot and Final Fantasy VII were not only portable for the very first time, but they were sold at an incredibly low price and were effortlessly available. And when you buy it on PSP, you get it on PS3 and PS Vita. This was a 2004 handheld, and the networking and just the way it works was nuts. And everything we've talked about is possible without even using Homebrew. These are native, out-of-the-box features for the device. Although as cool as UMDs are, you are better off playing your games off the memory stick instead. Not only is the battery better for doing that because you're not spinning a disc the entire time, but the load times are exponentially better. Here's a comparison. This really was my media hub in the 2000s. I had an audio docking station. I had a headphone jack with an attachment that looked like an iPod scroll wheel. It was the center of everything I did. I used to use things like a Video Now or Game Boy Advance Video because I yearned for portable media. And now we have it so effortlessly with streaming, and I find I want it less. Giving infinite options is actually incredibly limiting, but filling your own personal device with exactly what you want feels far more purposeful, and it's really hard to do that these days because we don't own anything. I often hear people view the PSP as a failure, which is wild to me because this thing sold 82 million units. That's like 5 million less than the PS3, and 1.5 million more than the Game Boy Advance, and 5 million more than the 3DS. It did great, and it really doesn't have that many weaknesses as a device. I remember getting this for Christmas, and my dad called it sexy, and I found that weird as a 10-year-old, but you know what, he's right, it is sexy. The PSP is still one of the best portable devices you can use for multimedia, despite being over 20 damn years old, and I'm very happy to sideline my phone for this. This is basically as good as it gets as a multimedia machine. Yes, there are some drawbacks in the modern age. Loading photos, especially high-res ones, can take a while, and this is a standard definition screen. Although I find when you crunch HD video and downsample it down to a PSP resolution, they still look really good because it's tailored to this screen. But maybe there are things you could improve upon. Making a nice HD PSP with a nice vivid display, that would definitely improve things, but the base features of just playing music in movies and playing games, that's all here, and it's all done really well on what is now a low-spec device, but what was then a very powerful handheld. And I do miss this era of Sony doing handhelds, but also competition to Nintendo. That was Sony at their best. Nintendo was giving you this very low-spec machine, but with the innovation of 2 screens and a touchscreen, whereas PSP was giving you power in the palm of your hands and giving you more versatility than you've ever had. It was one of the best times in the handheld industry because we just had 2 extremely different machines that thrived in different ways. It wasn't one was better than the other. It was, what a time to be alive! You know, I miss it so much. And I felt really good just putting my phone aside and allowing this to be my portal whenever I am away from home or not next to a TV. It's been an amazing time. So thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.